Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee on the 17th of February, 8:51 in the morning, and it's sort of cool, 57, high of 66, that'll be nice. And they're predicting large storm Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Ugh. But they predicted that in the past, and it turned out to be nasty weather, but not a lot of anything going on. So that's two times in the past month or so they did that. So let's see what happens. I don't know, honestly. It might happen, it might not. I don't know. My hunch, and just a hunch, is that we'll have cold weather, nasty weather, and rain, but not a lot. Snow in the places of high altitude, the mountaintops, and Jerusalem, which is 2,500 feet elevated, is highly likely, but I wouldn't. We've seen that in the past. Okay, enough on that. Trump is now saying that there will be a phase 2 of the ceasefire, and Netanyahu is telling us he's in perfect sync with Trump. So that means Netanyahu believes this too. So we're going to delve into what this means, how it'll work out, and does Iran fit into it? Okay, that's what we're going to work out. And I want to point out that Egypt has threatened war with Israel. Jordan has threatened war with Israel. Syria is being run by Turkey. Yes, it is. And Turkey has threatened war with Israel. So those are the three missing pieces of the puzzle of the Zechariah 12 siege, and they look like they're all in play. I wish it happened yesterday like you do, but it is what it is, right? We can't do anything about this. We know it's coming, we don't know when, but there it is, and just about all of us are miserable. Or I'd say all of us are miserable because we know what's coming and we see all the bad stuff. We don't see the good stuff materializing. We just know it's going to happen based on Bible prophecy, but it's very difficult. Is the Lord trying to shake out those that are not really in Him and in Yeshua? Probably. I don't know for sure. It sounds like that to me. But all right, what I'm going to do is get into. So this thing with the ceasefire, just give you a general idea. It's going to blow up, and I'll explain to you why and how and what the ramifications are, and it could lead to massive wars around the world. It could, probably will. We'll cover all that. Fox News ran a story very recently, like hours ago, that on the TV, that these are the last days of Hamas, and they probably are. Okay. Very recently. We got sound and picture. People are coming in. Let me put up my posts and we'll go forward. And let me get my email address up and we'll go from there. I'll just be a few seconds. Okay, I got all that up. I'm going to do some praise and we'll get started. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So there's still a few hostages that'll be coming out, I think, next Saturday, supposedly. And I think the phase 1 of the ceasefire that we're in expires March 1st or March 2nd. And they are beginning those negotiations for phase 2. What phase 2 is supposed to be composed of, according to Hamas, is Israel completely leaves Gaza. All the soldiers pull out. The war stops. It's over. We don't attack any more weapons or anything. It's just finished. Okay? That's not going to stop the Lebanon war. I'll explain why. The Hezbollah, as of last night, was seen in the south of Lebanon with weapons, and we attacked again. So the Lebanese army is failing to stop. They're failing to perform what they were supposed to do during the ceasefire, which is over tomorrow on the 18th, apparently. There was talk of an extension, but now I'm not hearing any more of that. I don't understand what happened. I thought they passed it. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. Israel is saying they're definitely not leaving Lebanon because Hezbollah has not, the Lebanese army has not taken Hezbollah out of the south below the Litani River, nor have they gotten rid of the weapons over there. And Hezbollah, which is in part of the government of Lebanon, is saying that everybody knows what will happen if Israel doesn't leave. This is coming from a guy in the government of Lebanon. That's part of Hezbollah. And this is something Trump did not want. So I do not think Trump will put any pressure on Israel to leave. Currently, there's no active pressure to get Israel out of their positions in Syria, which are numerous. We were in Syria near our border at probably almost 40 miles deep, and that doesn't look like it's ending at all. So there's tensions between Israel and the new government of Syria. And the real new government of Syria is Turkey. And we know Turkey will be in the siege, apparently. And this looks like a good way to see it happen is this way. Okay? So someone posted, war is not nice. Well, it isn't. But look what they did when they waged war on us on October 7th. It wasn't nice. So should we just sing Michael Roder's Boat Ashore and Kumbaya and let them keep killing us? Is that what you would do? If your friends and family were getting killed, would you do that? Um, so where are we at with the ceasefire? Well, the White House people like Rubio, the Secretary of State, are stating that Trump is adamant on the release of all the hostages. Some are American. Our intel picked up that Hamas plans on keeping a good amount of hostages, like 20. There's about 50 or 59 that'll be there after phase one is over. I think it's 59. Some are dead bodies, so there's still a lot of hostages. Now, what they don't tell you in the mainstream media is taking civilian hostages is an international war crime. Nobody does anything about that because they all hate Israel. Okay? Even Trump doesn't talk about that. Okay? And taking hostages and torturing them and beating them and raping them and starving them and denying them medical coverage is another international war crime, compounding the first, and taking prisoners of war, Israeli soldiers, and torturing them psychologically and physically, no medical, starving them, making them perform as laborers in people's houses, humiliating them, all of it, starving them, and all of this stuff is also an international war crime. You got to treat POWs with respect, okay? And they've done that. Now, Japan did many bad things to POWs during World War II. And after Japan fell, American military intelligence hunted these people down that were running these POW camps and forcing the soldiers to do extremely hard labor, beating them, mistreating them, and all of this stuff. Germany was not really big on that. Germany was worried about how their own soldiers would be treated. There were POWs, so they were not doing this. Okay, they didn't. There were like just about no reports. I don't know. Maybe they wanted intel out of a prisoner here and there and tortured him or something, but it's not out there. That would be a soldier that was operating as a spy without his uniform. The Germans cared about their own soldiers. The Japanese don't care because their own soldiers are not supposed to surrender. They're supposed to commit suicide, shoot themselves, blow themselves up, or do a banzai charge at the enemy, just run into a wall of bullets. It was disrespectful for them to surrender. So they didn't care about any POWs that came from the Japanese army that the Allies had, because these people should never have been POWs, so they dealt harshly. They took them on a forced march and killed them. They were horrible. Okay? They had no respect for soldiers that surrendered. There were other times in World War II where where the Japanese Navy there was one incident I seem to recall where they had a battle with an American, I believe it was an American submarine. There was more than one destroyer, I think, from Japan, and and the submarine fought valiantly, against them. And then the submarine was significantly damaged. They had to abandon ship with the rafts, and the Japanese didn't machine gun them. They didn't surrender, they abandoned ship, and a lot of the Japanese sailors were throwing potatoes in the ocean for them as a sign of respect, which would float, and they could retrieve them and have them for food. That's sort of like the Zulu fighting the British in Africa, They surrounded the British, and they kept, this is the Hollywood account, which is probably based on some facts, and I think it was the late 1800s or early 1900s, it was something like that, and they kept They got them surrounded, and the British just kept fighting. The British were very tough back then, and they had layers of soldiers, and they just kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and they were grossly outnumbered by the Zulu, who had inferior weapons. They had Roman era weapons and, spears, arrows, things like that, swords. And they killed a lot of Zulu, and the Zulu completely outnumbered them. And then instead of, when they were just down to a reasonably small amount, which might have been 1 or 200 or something like that, there wasn't 10 guys, it was, the Zulu just chanted, praise to them, broke the fight off and marched away chanting praise to him. Because they fought so valiantly, they decided to let them live. And you see, Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis and all the other Muslim terrorist-oriented groups and countries don't follow any of this. They have no respect for enemy soldiers or enemy civilians. Nothing. Nothing. And their view is like Hamas in Gaza. Well, we won. We're still here in Gaza. We won. The fact that 30,000 of them were dead, and probably double or triple that of the civilian population was dead, and massive amounts were wounded, and the whole country of Gaza, if you want to call it that, was demolished. It's a rubble. You have to understand that it's a rubble. And they still think they won. See, if their people get killed in a holy war, which to them killing Israel and the Jews is a holy war, then they get martyred, they go immediately to paradise and get the 70 virgins. So that's a win. So if they get killed, it's a win. And if they actually win, according to what we would say a win is, so much the better. They won. And they get slaves and loot and pillage and plunder and torture. They use these people as slaves to some extent. They raped them. They raped men. When they were in Israel, they took women and their children and tied them together with wire and burned them alive. They burned people alive in their houses. They put a baby in an oven. They cut a fetus out of a woman when she was alive. Of course she died. They raped women and men in front of their families and children. These people are goners. They belong in a psychiatric hospital for the criminally insane. In America, I don't think these people would be allowed to stand trial. They don't have competence. They don't have mental competence. They don't know right or wrong. They think they're doing right. We had a phone we took from a guy, and he called his mother up from inside Israel and said, I just killed 10 Jews, celebrating it. Nobody puts the blame on Netanyahu for letting this happen too much, although I'd say there's at least 1 or 2 million people in Israel that are suspicious of this. But the blame should be on him for gun control. Okay? If there was a gun in every house down there in South Israel, the amount of damage that Hamas would have done would have been maybe 10%. Even if you got a pistol, they approach your house, you keep your door locked, you break a window, open a window, and start shooting at them. They don't want to take rounds. They wouldn't pursue it. They'd shoot at you continually from a distance, but it never would have worked. They wouldn't have been able to just get in the house without getting a gunfight and getting injured and killed. This Netanyahu is a horrible person for Israel. He's not for Israel. Okay? You think he is, but if he was for Israel and he was for Jehovah, why would he run those parades? The kind I mean, the ones that celebrate behavior that's absolutely forbidden in the Bible with a death penalty. Why would he run those parades in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv every year? You tell me. I need an answer for that. The only answer I get up is that he's not really with the God of Israel. He wants a fake Israel, which is what we've had since 1948. Okay? It's not serving God, it's not following the Bible, it's following the Talmud, which contradicts the Bible extensively. The Talmud says Yeshua is not the Messiah, he's not the Son of God, he was a bastard because his father was the Holy Spirit, and he was a witch. And they tell the people, if you put a New Testament in your house, you bring a curse on your house. That's what goes on here. You think that's Israel? No. Bible calls it in these days Judah and Jerusalem, doesn't call it Israel. With redemption, then we'll call it Israel when the 10 tribes of Israel are back. So what's going to happen with this phase 2 ceasefire? I think it's just a sham. What Trump wants to do is he wants to see if he can bring all the hostages back, because it plays so well with his political stance. And it would play well with the Israeli people, and it would not be a bad thing at all. It would be a good thing. But Hamas isn't going to do it because they lose their bargaining power with Israel. What's their bargaining power if Israel unleashes hell on them, like Trump and Netanyahu say? They'll kill the hostages. How does that look for Netanyahu and Trump? How? How does that look? Bad. They made a mistake. They got the hostages killed. They won't just kill them. They'll put it on the internet. They might just machine gun them if they're stressed for time. They might cut their throats with the dull knives. They might burn them alive, drown them, cut their heads off, torture them. I don't know what they would do. Okay? Throw them off roofs, all of the above. Who knows? These are criminally insane people. If they went to stand trial, the attorneys would argue they don't know right from wrong, and they don't. They would be ruled incompetent to stand trial. They would be put in a psychiatric hospital until the time comes where they know right from wrong, if it ever happens, and then they may proceed to trial. Maybe not. Just like you know, if somebody has, they're active in a crime and they get shot and they're in a coma, they don't put them on trial. What could he do in trial? He can't confront his accusers. He's unconscious. These people are basically, legally in America, the equivalent of unconscious. They don't know right from wrong. Do you understand what we're dealing with here? You're not dealing with an army like Russian army, Ukraine army, German army, British army, Canadian army, Argentine army, Brazil army, Cuban army, or any of that stuff. You're dealing with the Muslim army, and this is the problem you have with them. They think they're doing God a favor by killing the Israelis and all their other enemies. Israel's not Israel. A pittance of America is Jewish, but they want to kill America because it gets in the way of them annihilating Israel. Israel's been fighting, let me tell you the fronts: Lebanon, Gaza, Yemen, Iran, Syria, although that stopped recently, Syria, Iraq, and the West Bank, with the terrorists in the West Bank. There's 8 fronts. Has Israel been defeated? No. Is Israel out on top now? Yes. Okay. So let me look at the chat, and then I'll show you what I believe is going to happen with this phase 2. And it's going to be rather catastrophic, I think. Hamas is never going to give all the hostages back to get Israel to stop the war. That's what Netanyahu and Trump are going to say. Hamas isn't going to do it. If Hamas did it, what Hamas would say is first Israel leaves, and then we want to have some guarantees from other countries that they won't start the war again, and then we'll release the hostages over a period of months. Completely unacceptable for Trump. He's got other fish to fry. He doesn't have time for this nonsense. Neither does Netanyahu, because it'll just drag on and on. All the hostages, dead bodies and all, come back to Israel, then we'll leave. They won't do that. Okay? Trump is against all this 3 hostages here, 3 hostages there. It won't happen. They probably got 40% of the terrorists in the jails in Israel released already, or 30%, 35%, something like that. Safe a third, I think you could say. And that's just idiotic. Why did Netanyahu agree to give, I think it's an average of something like 50 terrorist prisoners released for 1 hostage? Why does he do things like this? He's against us. He wants humiliating Israel. He wants to humiliate us. He wants to scare the people so they don't even get any ideas about taking the land back that God gave to us in a covenant, in not a promise, a covenant in Genesis 15. It's a covenant, a brit, a covenant. And so that's one area the ceasefire phase 2 could blow up. Okay? Likely will. Number 2 is, of course, Trump wants the Gazans out of Gaza, the civilians, like roughly 2 million, right? Trump has no place to put them right now. So I'm not so sure Trump is going to drive that point home that hard. But there is a logistical, non-political, non-war issue about this, and that's how do you reconstruct Gaza with the 2 million running around in there? This is a problem. Okay? Prophetically reconstructing Gaza is a waste of time to talk about. Of course, they're all saying 10 to 15 years, and we know we don't have, maybe weeks left in prophecy for that place to go, so that's not an issue. Trump wants Hamas out of Gaza. Who in the world would take them in? I have no idea. Trump certainly won't take them in. So, we got another problem there. Hamas ain't leaving. Hamas just came out with a statement where they said, we'll allow Mahmoud Abbas to come in and establish a government here. We'll let him run the government. Well, Mahmoud Abbas pays money to the families of every terrorist in prison for killing or attempting to kill Jews. It comes out to about $3,200 a month, which is like 10 grand a month in America. Okay? And this money is paid to them as long as they're, usually it's a son or a father, in jail. It could be it's a daughter sometimes. Or if they're dead, the stipend comes to them for perpetuity, as long as this idiot can pay it to him. Now, Trump has not bore down on him to make him stop making these payments. Why? It promotes terrorism. It promotes killing Jews. Why doesn't he sanction or do something to Mahmoud Abbas? Good question. So why won't he do it? Does he want this to continue so Jews don't come live in Israel? You bet. You give me another reason why he doesn't do it. Don't just sit here and say, oh, he's a Jew, he's this and that. Yeah. Give me another reason for it. So Smotrich, our economic minister, who's very right wing, takes money in relationship to how much pension money Mahmoud Abbas is paying this families of the terrorists, and he turns that money over to the families of terrorism in Israel. So he just recently clipped $500,000. I think it was $500,000 that he's going to distribute to the people. That, they're not going to, at this level, they're not going to get a lot of money, but they're going to get some money. And it's an insult on Mahmoud Abbas. We got a jet, but it's not moving fast. So, what they want to do is cut all the money off from Palestinian Authority until these payments to the terrorist families cease and desist altogether. Now, because 35% or so of the terrorists were released from prison, the payments have dropped. Also, Israel saves money. They don't have to keep them alive with medical and food and housing and correction officers and stuff like that. If you want to talk about that, but if Israel had a death penalty, these Muslim terrorists would just say, "Oh, he's martyred. Great. They put him in an electric chair. They shot him. He's martyred. They hung him. He's martyred. They gave him the lethal injection. He's martyred." Okay. So putting them in jail is very unpleasant. They're not in anything resembling a minimal security prison. They don't give them jobs. They don't educate them in the jail. They don't get any of that. Okay. So Trump is completely opposed to having Hamas stay in Gaza at all. And if he did agree to let him stay there, he would want to do provisions to make sure they're demilitarized to some great extent. And I don't think he cares that much about rehabilitating or rebuilding Gaza. He cares about the resort value of that thing. So he could be moved off that and leave him in Gaza. But see, if you just leave Gaza, Israel just pulls out and you leave everything the way it is, Egypt's going to allow the smuggling in of weapons from Iran, and I don't know, 2 weeks, a week, a month, they'll start shooting rockets at Israel. They probably have a reasonably small amount of rockets and missiles they have hidden there that they could access. If the ceasefire with Gaza blows, Trump has got to deal with the Houthis in Yemen. And they'll start attacking ships, American bases, maybe even Saudi Arabia. Or the UAE or Jordan. And of course, the American bases in Iraq and Syria. Iraq will rise up again if they're not too scared. HTS in Syria, I don't know if they will. I'm not thinking. They will ultimately get into it, but right now they're afraid. If they see all the other countries turn on Israel, then they will turn too. They're going to want to make sure that they're going to survive. It's a golden opportunity for ISIS and Al Qaeda because they got their own country called Syria. So turning it over to Mahmoud Abbas is just stupid. within, and they also said they want some of their people in the new government. So they're not turning the government over to anybody. They want to put a new paint job on the government called Palestinian Authority, and their people are going to be in the Palestinian Authority government in Gaza running it. And if the Palestinian Authority starts objecting to the policies they want, they'll kill them and their families. These are criminally insane people, like serial killers of children, things like this. Okay, they're out of reality. You know, in the past, there's been serial killers who run around killing prostitutes. You know, they think they're doing God a favor or something like that. Prostitutes are easy to kill. They ride around with prostitutes, what's called trolling, where the prostitute walks around certain districts, areas, and cities around the world and dresses like a prostitute. They pull up with the car. They negotiate a price and services. She gets in the car. Maybe they're going to do it in the car or go someplace, and he kills her. It's not hard to get access to prostitutes and kill them. The prostitutes walking the streets are 99.9% working for a pimp. Okay, these districts, if a woman herself without a pimp starts trolling, walking around in the districts, you know, the other pimps will say, "You work for me." She says no, they'll start beating her up and everything, you know. So they'd even kill her. Pimps are sick individuals. They're mental cases, and they're usually desperate. And it's in organized crime. It's not a real desirable place to be. You know, the mafia guys, they didn't do it that way. You know, what they would do is they would set up houses of prostitution, and they would provide protection for the girls, and they would have a house with multiple bedrooms, and the customer, which is called the John, I used to work in law enforcement when I was young, would come in and he'd pay money he'd pick a girl, pay money to the house, or he would hang around and have drinks and talk to the girls, and then he would pay, and they would go off into one of the bedrooms, and that would be that. So everything was protected. If he started trying to hurt the girl and she screamed, there'd be a few guys there that was 6'3", 240. They'd run in and they'd beat the daylights out of the guy and throw him out in the street, you know. No police involvement, you know. So that's what, you know, the way they did it. The mafia guys, they didn't, you know, or they'd open up illegal gambling places, card games, Las Vegas gambling stuff with roulette and blackjack deals, whatever. They would throw the prostitutes around in there. Now in Las Vegas, I haven't been there in a gazillion years, but they had prostitutes in all the big casinos, you know. Usually the beverage server was a prostitute. People would go into a show, and there would be a 2-drink minimum. So the way they did that, as soon as you sat down before the show started, she came over. "What do you want?" And you said, "Oh." You could say, "Give me 2 tomato juices," and they would charge you full price, and they didn't care. It was fine with them. Or you could say, and these weren't, you know, strip shows. There were sometimes famous comedians. Like I saw Sammy Davis Jr. once live in the 70s in Lake Tahoe, which is in the Nevada side. And I was watching the girls and the drink service. There was really 1 or 2. And she was running around like, you know, like Speedy Gonzalez, boom, 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 giving everybody the drinks. Then she disappears. Well, she was doing her tricks. She went up into the hotel in a room, and she had one or two customers, depending. And then at the end of the show, she came back and got ready for the next show. And the house, the casino, was profiting on that. She was probably getting, if she did great, half. If she didn't do great, 30, 40% or whatever. She didn't get that much, but she was protected, you know. Now, she didn't have a pimp. The pimp was the casino. They would protect her. But the girls out on the street are usually the lowest rung you can get. You know, and then in more recent years, it was still back in the 70s, they came out with massage parlors where the customer would go in a massage parlor and they would charge, I don't know, say $15 for a massage. This is a long time ago, right? So the customer would go in the room and they would ask him to undress. So if he got down to everything but kept his shorts on, he could be an undercover cop, okay? And he could make the arrest. But if he got himself completely naked, he could not testify in court. So I imagine there was a lot of lying going on, but he would be reluctant to get completely undressed. Plus, where's his gun? Where's his badge? Where's his radio? You know, all these problems pop up, you know. So they found a way, and I think they still use it, to stop police from doing anything to them about that, you know. So anyway, back in Gaza, I I just can't at all believe that Hamas will agree to what Netanyahu and Trump want, which is going to be a full return of Gaza. They're probably not going to go for the Palestinian Authority scam where they're in the government. And they're going to want them further demilitarized, and they're going to want them disbanded. And, you know, I can't imagine Hamas agreeing to it. I mean, I don't even think there's a 1% chance. They're not going to give all the hostages back. They lose their bargaining power with Israel. They won't do it. Let alone they're not going to do it before Israel pulls out of Gaza. They've always said after you've removed yourself from Gaza and the war's over, we'll dribble the hostages out to you as a means of making sure you don't resume the war. So they'll try to drag it out for a couple of years if they can, or longer. And Egypt will help them rebuild their weapons and tunnels. They don't care about the people. The people are just there for human shields. They don't care if they live in tents. They'll be screaming humanitarian aid, reconstruction of Gaza, and they'll take the materials and use them for tunnels, and Egypt will help them, and all this stuff. You know. And I think Trump is astute enough to see all this. So it's a nice way of declaring war on Gaza without declaring war on Gaza. It makes it look like it's their fault. Here, I'm giving you a path to peace. You're a bunch of low-life sleaze buckets. You've got to demilitarize. You can't have any control over anything. They're also saying something like if they can't participate in the new government with Mahmoud Abbas from the Palestinian Authority, then they want early pensions paid to the members of Hamas. See, if they're not going to fight, they can't make a living because Iran's not going to give them money, Qatar's not going to give them money, and so forth. So they want somebody to raise money to give themselves a pension, reward their behavior with a lifetime early pension. Some of these guys are 22 years old. To them, these guys are God's warriors trying to eradicate the Jews, and they deserve a pension. So is Trump going to go for that? Their plan is the 2 million or so Gazans stay in Gaza. They stay in Gaza. And they have a hand in the government. And, I can't see. If Trump and Netanyahu, they sit and they talk and they say, well, let's go along with it. At least we'll keep getting hostages back. You could always start the war again in an hour. So, keep your military at the ready and leave Gaza. But the weapons are going to come in. So there's going to be more missiles raining on Israel. Does Trump really want to not see that happen? I don't know. Biden sure enjoyed it. So I don't know. But how do you break the spirit of Hamas and get them quaking in their boots, realizing they're going to get annihilated? Now, the leaders, the ones at the top, are not really Muslims. They're Satan bots. And they just say they're Muslims, like Trump saying he's a Christian and all of that. All right, okay, so that's what's going. So they don't want to die, okay? So how do you break their spirit? You bomb Iran. There's at least 2 B-52 bombers that last night, with 2 refueling tankers, moved from Europe to the Middle East. I don't know where or why or how they got here. I don't know anything other than that. That was flight tracking radar that picked that up. Apparently they went to the Middle East. We've seen B-52s move into the Middle East before, but I don't know how many are here or not here. The B-52s can carry the 30,000-pound bombs that America has. I believe they're the only ones. And these bombs will more than likely bust up the nuclear facilities. But you're not going to stop Iran until you take out their oil facilities, their refineries, their ports, their piers to offload the oil. I don't care how many sanctions the Trump administration issues, Iran will keep breaking them. The only way you're going to stop Iran is destroy their oil facilities that they can't offload oil into ships or natural gas, or block the Straits of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf and not let any of their ships leave that look like they could be carrying oil or natural gas. It's easy to spot those. And they'll board them and inspect them. They're not going to look at a ship manifest from Iran. That's idiotic. Iran, I would think it's safe to say they tell more lies than truth, probably 3 to 1. So I think this is a good time to see Iran get hit. They've increased their production of the nuclear material 7 times in the last day or 2 they announced it. Not only did they do it and try to keep it quiet, they announced it. So they're giving, slap shots onto the face of Trump. They refuse to talk to him. They say it's pointless to talk to Trump. They don't think anybody's going to hit them. Russia can't do anything to really help them. Neither will North Korea or China. It's too far away. It's too much of a stretch for them. I don't think they're going to do anything. But I'm telling you, just knocking out their nuclear facilities isn't going to have much of an effect. The US dollar buys approximately 3.5 Israeli shekels. That's it. Okay? It buys close to 1 million of the Iranian dollar. I think they call it a rial or something. Almost 1 million of them, 900 something thousand. They've wrecked their economy already. Has it stopped Iran? No. They tried to smuggle cash into Lebanon on civilian aircraft the other day. That plane had to be turned back and the airport closed at the pressure of Israel, from the pressure of Israel. So they're still at it. They lost Syria as an ally and a puppet to fight Israel. They're still at it. The US, Israel, the UK have bombed the Houthis many times. They're still backing Iran. Iraq is not doing anything right now, but rest assured they're backing Iran. So if you want Lebanon to settle down and you want Gaza to settle down and the Houthis to settle down and Iraq to settle down, you blow up Iran. So what does Trump do at this point? Does he let Iran slapshot him and ignore even talking to him, which is grievous disrespect, and increase their nuclear material by 7-fold? Does he just let that happen and ruin his credibility? And they break sanctions all the time? Or does he decide it's time to take out their nuclear facilities? Which is probably how it'll start. And then Iran looks like the moron, the weak punk that can't do anything. And then they'll figure out something to do using their proxies, I'm sure. More than one. So Trump has a mess on his hands. And hang on, I'm doing something here. I'm afraid I might have hit the wrong person by blocking them. I don't think I did. If you just got blocked and it was by mistake from me, oh wait, I could tell what it was. Thought I could tell. No. Don't know what I did. I think I got the right guy. If I didn't, let me know. I'm sorry, it was a mistake. So yeah, we're headed for a collision here in the next few days. And the negotiations are undoubtedly going to start badly. They're already starting talking. They won't get serious if they're over March 1st. They'll get serious around the 26th of February, 27th. I'll be right back. I'm taking a quick break. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think we're headed towards a big regional war. I can't imagine this thing resolving, guys. the least deal I think Trump and Netanyahu will take from Gaza is first the return of all the hostages. Remember, it's a war crime what they did. The immediate return of all the hostages first, and then Israel will pull out. Trump and Netanyahu will tell Gaza, you're going to have hell to pay if you start the war again. And they'll write off removing the Gazans out of Gaza. That's not feasible. It's not in Bible prophecy. It's never going to come to pass. And they're going to have to get demilitarized, which means the Israeli army is going to have to run around there, look for weapons and pull them away, and the tunnels will probably be destroyed because they're of no civilian value, and many things will have to happen. And probably the Rafah crossing thing will be looked away from. Trump will tell Egypt not to let the weapons smuggle in, and Egypt will say, oh, no problem, and they'll do it anyway. But if this happens, it would probably take Gaza several months, if not a year or two, to hear. I don't know. I just don't see it. When this falls apart, Hezbollah will continue attacking Israel. They're diminished by some place probably between 60 and 80%. It's probably more like they got maybe 15% or 10% of what they got left, maybe 20 or 25, very little. They will start trying to attack Israel. The Lebanese army is a bunch of cowards and they won't do anything about it. They'll probably join them. I believe prophecy indicates they'll join Hezbollah. Gaza will do whatever they can against us. The Houthis will unleash against America and Israel, but they can't do much to Israel. They may decide to pull a march on Gaza or to set them free, or I don't know why. And Syria, when they see the others rise up, Iraq will probably rise up, and whatever Iran could do. However, we know that I think before these things happen with Yemen and Lebanon and Gaza and Syria and Iraq, that Iran gets destroyed, and based on Jeremiah 49, and Edom, which is Yemen, and probably Syria and these other countries too. I don't know yet. It's very hard to get the exact precise sequencing, but Iran and Yemen may go before it happens. Or after, but I think before. I think it happens before we hit redemption. And Yemen, which is called Elam in Jeremiah 49, gets it from her enemies, plural. So it's not just Israel, it's not just America. And that's going to happen pretty soon. And this looks like it's a big this looks like it's going to start it off. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. That's what I look at now. Okay, let's get back on my notes, or I get back on my notes. Egypt not only threatened to war against us, they said that in one day they can invade Tel Aviv, and this is over the Rafah crossing. So they're violating the 1973 peace accord with Israel, and Israel's violating it by blocking the Rafah crossing, and they're violating it by putting too many troops in the Sinai Peninsula. So both sides are breaking the treaty from 1973. It's a peace agreement. Okay, we got a prayer request for a person named M. I'm using the initial M as in Mary, M. The prayer is to know and walk, to know what path the Lord wants this person on and to walk in it. So we're using the initial M to know the path the Lord wants this person to walk on and to walk in it. Someone wants me to pray that the true believers all over the world be less isolated. So the prayer request is that the true believers all over the world be less isolated. Well, we can certainly ask, right? You have not because you ask not, or you ask. So we got Egypt in play here with threatening war. Steve Witkoff, the envoy to the Middle East from Trump, is actually saying that the Americans want Hamas to not remain in Gaza. The way that's playing out is if they leave Gaza, they live. If they don't leave Gaza, they're dead. Hamas may try to come up with small amounts of hostages, like give Israel 10 hostages when they leave Gaza after the fact. Netanyahu's got political pressure. He may cave in for something like this, but I think Trump's going to shore him up and tell him, look, this thing's going to drag on forever and ever, Benji, and we don't have time for this. All the hostages, or wipe them out and try to save as many hostages as you can. He said, well, I'll be very unpopular if the hostages die. And Trump says, well, what do you want to do? And then Netanyahu's going to think, well, if I keep dragging this out, I could keep ducking my court cases. Yeah, conflict of interest, but real. If Lebanon lights up, does that mean Hamas will join in the fight? No. No. I don't believe that. It was rather a surprise to me that it's coming out that Turkey is running Syria, but by how much? I mean, Israel's got military positions that they're firmly entrenched in Syria. So, to what great extent are they running Syria? I don't know. I mean, they're running it, but I don't think they're running it by any great extent, but heavily influencing it. Let me take a look at the well, the scenario is basically Trump wants Netanyahu to go to phase two to make it look good. Okay? What happens at phase two? It's going to fail. And then Trump says to Gaza, all hell will break loose. Netanyahu says it. Gaza says we'll kill the hostages, and the Houthis in Lebanon and other countries will say we'll attack you, and then I don't know what Trump and Netanyahu are going to do. Probably attack Gaza. Trump did not respond to the fact that Iran said they're increasing their production 7 times more, which means to me he intends to attack them. Trump's got to attack somebody because on the international front, he's got no credibility. With Ukraine, he's negotiating with Russia over Ukraine without Ukraine there, without Europe there. I mean, he's just unilaterally taking control of this. I don't know how many people are going to put up with it. He hasn't settled Panama down. He doesn't even talk about Greenland anymore. He stopped talking about Canada and Mexico as the 51st states. He's got no credibility. Nobody believes him. Putin probably sees him as a breath of fresh air because he thinks he could get something out of him. And what Putin needs is a year or two to restore his military and build equipment and bombs and everything else. So Israel just got a lot of weapons yesterday, 76,000 tons from America. And you're going to see these weapons get used, in my opinion. Let me see if we have any more news breaking. This second phase of the ceasefire, it's got, about, I don't know, maybe 11, 12 days till it's supposed to go, well, till the one we have now expires. So we're, at the wire, so to speak. This is an interesting development. Ahead of the expected visit of Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar to Brussels, the organization Hind Rajab has filed a complaint with the Hague Tribunal aiming to have Saar arrested upon his arrival in Brussels, citing his alleged involvement in the genocide in Gaza. The Belgian organization Hind Rajab, led by Hezbollah activists, also pursues IDF soldiers seeking arrest warrants worldwide in connection with the war in Gaza. Yeah, but who started the war in Gaza? They don't want to tell you that, right? Why do these nations and courts take them seriously? Because they hate Israel. They're with Satan. Lebanon is also a little bit concerned about rebuilding South Lebanon. And that's not going to happen as long as Hezbollah is down there. But don't think things are going to get peaceful. They're absolutely not. That's Bible prophecy. Lebanon's bellyaching about reconstructing the homes. Hezbollah is saying the homes will be better than they were before they were destroyed by Israel. Blah, 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 blah. The Israeli military is saying that in recent weeks, Hezbollah has launched 5 drones for reconnaissance missions towards Israel. 4 of them crossed into Israel territory. But officially, the Israeli military just publicly reported 1 drone. So they're trying to get ready to attack us again. The strong winds and the winter weather are causing the buildings that were damaged but still standing in Gaza to collapse. That's in Gaza. So it's, if you could believe it, it's making it worse. The South Korean government has blocked the use of the Chinese AI app with the title DeepSeek because it doesn't trust the data collection that this Chinese thing does. Even this morning we were active in South Lebanon. So, you know, we haven't really stopped fighting. They've stopped attacking us. Trump's getting Europe all kinds of bent out of shape over this negotiations with Ukraine. A lot of people that follow this closer than I do, Russia, Ukraine, don't think Putin's going to be too quick to give in. Other people are saying Putin's worn out, him and his military, he needs a year or 2 to recover and then start all over again. So it could be a combination going on. So Rubio is now in Saudi Arabia for talks with Russia. I think at this point Putin is hanging in tough, and he's going to want pretty good concessions. I don't know what's going to come of it, really. I'm expecting they're not going to get together. There's a rise in rapes in Sweden, drastic because of all their immigration, who they let in, Muslim terrorists and crazies and everything else. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, maybe we should call him the Salmon, is going to convene a 5-party conference in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia this week to formulate a counter plan to Trump's immigration plan. This will be presented at the Arab Summit Conference in Cairo on the 27th of this month, a show of force by the Arab world against Trump. See, Trump's coming across as weak internationally. So Saudi Arabia is absolutely opposing Trump and Israel. He wants the Gazans to rise up again and kill Israel. Don't kid yourself. The UNWRA is supposed to be banned out of Israel, but they're still operating in Israel. I don't know what's up with that. Maybe Trump told them to back off. I doubt it. It's probably just something they're going to deal with soon. There's some countries that are interested in sending troops to Ukraine as peacekeepers. France, for one, Sweden, another, perhaps Germany and other countries. So that might happen too. They don't want to write up a peace deal that's going to, be dead by Christmas, or maybe be dead by 4th of July. They want something that's going to last, but they don't have any concept of prophecy. They don't believe it. Ukrainian drones just attacked, I guess last night, oil pipelines in southern Russia. So they're really pushing on Putin. They're trying to destroy his oil business and bring him to his knees. Of course, on the media, nobody brings that up. Trump has failed to scare BRICS over attempting to destroy the US dollar. That didn't happen. They're still gung-ho moving forward on that. And I, at this point, wholeheartedly expect Saudi Arabia to join. The UAE has joined, and I think Saudi Arabia will go in too. So they're abandoning Trump. they're not gonna stick with him. It's coming out that there's people in the Israeli government, ministers, members of the Knesset, that are business people engaging in business with Qatar, and they're sabotaging or going against Netanyahu. He has the Shin Bet, which is sort of kind of like the FBI investigating them, because Qatar is pro-Hamas, so they're probably in favor of leaving Gaza without the hostages and without demilitarizing anybody or anything. And then Qatar will be friendly to him in business. And Netanyahu's upset about that, and he should be. Trump has no credibility right now, I agree. But Trump can get it back by making one move, using the military. Hamas isn't going to, it'll help, it'll show he's willing to do something. But what really would help is if Iran gets bombed, or the Houthis, and Trump knows he has to get his credibility. He inherited no credibility from Biden, and he has to fix that, and he has to do something. And that's going to have to involve the military, not sanctions. So, that's about what I got today. There's not much going on. That's all the Lord had me do today. So please pray for me and my wife Rivka, for our peace, safety, protection, joy. Pray for our healing. Pray for our finances. Keep praying for me to get that document in the mail. Still haven't heard anything about it. I'm going to have to start calling them today. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for better videos and each other, all the true believers. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. Thank you.